You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
I didn't actually clear out my Star Wars collection as I had promised myself I was going to do in the summer. I just couldn't bear to do it. So I decided, no, Star Wars, you're staying with me for a little bit longer.
Rolling. Don't use any of this. Don't
Okay, carry 3.
They love you. You know.
This is Princess Leia Organa. You're listening to Planet Leia.
Permission is granted to land on Planet Leia. Brought to you by Fantha Tracks. Here are your hosts, Clair Henry and Johanna Nybelius.
Welcome to the latest Planet Leia. I'm joined here, as always, by my co-host, and I'm going to get her, as always, to say her name because I am rubbish at it with a Northern Irish accent.
Hello again, it's me, Johanna Lindén Nybelius, with you again from Sweden as usual, talking about Star Wars. When we recorded last time, it was just the evening before the last episode of Acolyte, and I must say, when I saw the Acolyte, I was so pumped over the fact that we actually got so much right.
How smug was I watching that last episode? We absolutely hit near enough every nail on it, didn't we?
Yeah, I was so stoked for it, and I was like, yes, this will be so good. And then, of course, the news came fairly soon that no, they're not going to renew it for season 2. It had such a good ending. I really want to know what happens now.
And do you know what's going to happen to it? It's going to get turned into a comic or something like that. A piece of the medium or the section that I don't read comics anymore. I don't do that. And I feel that that is an injustice to what I thought was a brilliant storyline, really fantastic ending. It had a plan. It knew where it was going and it got cut.
It wasn't the easiest series to get into. I mean, it was a bit slow and dragged in the middle. It was a bit hard to really get emotional and attached to all the characters, but with the ending came so much that you want to see continuing. This is what I'm so frustrated about with a lot of Star Wars now, especially if you're talking about the TV series and films. If it's not an instant hit, they are cancelled immediately. And I totally understand, like, it's a big financial gamble. If they don't pay off immediately with enough viewers, they are just cancelled. But we don't see them getting a chance to like build up characters, build up story arcs. It's like 8 episodes and then it's over. And most stories take more than 8 episodes.
Honestly, I think that this new format of 8 shows is not giving anything any chance to take traction. No. It doesn't matter whether it's Star Wars or whether it's something else. Nothing is getting traction anymore. It's 8 episodes, and if it doesn't work, well, so be it.
And also what I got really sad, I should say, about was that in the summer when I met up with friends, I was at the largest nerd and cosplay convention in Northern Europe, NARCon. I was talking to people there. It was like, yeah, I heard about the Acolyte, but I heard so bad things about it, so I never saw it. Yeah. Watch it yourself and make up your own mind. Today, the fandom is so divided and so toxic, and you know that people do get more views if they are evil and angry and disappointed and everything. That gets more views. Of course, they're going to beat it. I mean, we might be on the gushing side because we love Star Wars, definitely. Star Wars today is so big, you don't have to dwell on what you don't like. I mean, we can't deny the fact that we don't talk too much about the sequels in this pod because we're not really enjoying them. They are not our favorite part, but that's the thing. Then we don't talk about them.
We don't moan about it as such, or we don't criticize it. Somebody somewhere out there likes Star Wars for those new films. Yeah. Somebody has become a Star Wars fan like us on the back of those films. And again, I'm going to sound old, and I feel that people are starting to come round to this now, this polarization of opinions. People are starting to tire of that.
I hope so. And guess what we're really saying is make up your own mind. Don't listen to other podcasters. Don't listen to us if you don't want to. Of course, we want you to listen to us, but you don't have to agree with us.
We are very clear what we like, what we don't like, but we can see why other people like it. Here's a great example of it. I didn't particularly enjoy Solo, but I know lots of people who did.
Including me.
Absolutely. And I know it's one of your favourite ones. And for me, it was okay. Saw it a couple of times. I enjoyed it to a point, but not for me. But am I saying to you, you're not a Star Wars fan because you like that? How can you do that? And that's the bit that makes me really irritated by it all. And I feel that really, I don't know what's going on at the minute at Lucasfilm Limited. I think they kind of have almost lost their confidence and therefore lost their way in it because they haven't managed, or they're not managing, social media. And I mean that in a pleasant way. Does that make sense?
Whatever you say, for me, and now I'm going to be critical, it's that they lack a vision. They lack a vision. They don't dare to offend people, so they are taking the safe way and the safe route to something that they think people will like. And the Acolyte was an exception. And there is also an exception, but that exception built on Rogue One, which is definitely, I'd say, one of the most loved films. So they knew that they had something to build on there. But the Acolyte was something of a gamble. It didn't pay off. And now I'm fearing that we're going to go back more Ahsoka, more Thrawn, more Filoniverse things because people like that and that's the easy way.
Yeah. And all their plans that they all had, if you were to take a look at what they said, I don't know, however many years ago, the only thing that seems to have come to fruition, to be fair, was Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge. And I don't think that they marketed the hotel right. So that flopped because of the marketing of that and the vision of that. They should have taken a look at the secret cinema again and gone back to the drawing board instead of just closing it. They should have reviewed it again and just thought, okay, what do we need to do to make this work? And look at all the film projects. Like, didn't they have the one with the Wonder Woman director?
Yeah.
Gone.
And the one about the Rogue Squadron, there have been so many. At this stage, at a celebration, they can announce as many projects as they want to. I don't trust them until it's really up on Disney+.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, now it seems like we can hope that we do get something this autumn, but
I don't think there's anything due this autumn. I know Andor 2 is coming out. That's next year.
At least that's the one, Skeleton Crew. Yeah, at least there we have seen a trailer, so it's wrapped and ready to go, I hope.
I believe it is ready to go. I thought it looked fun, exciting, but is it going to get the traction or the positivity? And if it doesn't get the positivity because it's coming from moany old Star Wars fans, they've got to market this right.
It's in December.
Is it December? They've got to get this right. I look at my daughter. She is your classic. She wasn't before, but she's now become this classic TikTok, Snapchat generation. Yeah. And if you want people to get on board with it, you've got to get them on board with it via those platforms. And they haven't got it right. They have not got those ones right. Sophie said to me, oh, we need to watch this. How on earth did you hear about that? I sort of said, it's on TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was. And you're going to laugh at this. Grey's Anatomy. Yeah. She is completely addicted to Grey's Anatomy. How did she become addicted to Grey's Anatomy? Because she doesn't look at Disney Plus. It came across on her feed. And of course, then the algorithms get going. It came across on her feed again. And there it was. Job done.
And I feel like Skeleton Crew will be a bit tough to market. It's not really, from what we've seen so far. I mean, you have this crowd that basically just destroys anything Star Wars. This is about kids in the Star Wars universe. And that means that if you're 20 plus, you will probably not like it. It will be easy for you to dismiss it because it's kids. And then you have, of course, Jude Law, which is great if you're female of a certain age. But the ones who are making the most noises are usually not the female fans.
I agree. And again, that comes back to, it's got to hit that generation again. I'm thinking about all the programs that Sophie does watch. So those things that she does watch now, loads of them are on Netflix. There are nerdy TV programs. Big Bang Theory, loves it. All that sort of stuff. Easy to get them to like it. And you're right, I'll tell you now that it'll be user 9369 on Instagram and on X or whatever the platform they decide to do, starts with a hate and off they go and don't even give it a chance. I'll know, I'll form my opinion on it, and then I will take it from there.
It's okay to not like everything Star Wars, but it's just how you express those feelings, and all the positivity just dies out. Even though if we are at conventions, we do this because we love Star Wars. There are so many out there who love Star Wars, and then it gets drowned in all this negativity and toxicity.
Oversaturation in certain ways.
If we're going to see anything positive about it, it's the fact that since they have cancelled so much, you don't get a Star Wars series every autumn, every spring, film every year. We do get a bit more pause in between them, which I think is a good thing.
I think that makes people want more.
Yeah.
Surely that's a good thing. I know that there's this instant culture now that you have to have it within the next 6 weeks, you have to have it within the next 3 seasons or whatever it happens to be. It's got to go one way or the other. I also think, and I will dip into the political realm a little bit of it, is that actors, actresses come and go, get cancelled, uncancelled because of views, is how I'm going to put it. That is very hard, I'm sure, for any media company to manage, because one minute they're all in and then the next minute they're all out. So it's that fall out and fall in of actors and where they sit in the stratosphere of popularity or not. I would hate to be a person starting off my career trying to navigate all that, because I wouldn't know where to go. I wouldn't know what to do. You have to be so careful now about anything and anything, because anything and everything can be misconstrued.
And that's one thing. I mean, once again, now when we get these pauses in between the series and films and new projects, if you like us, like the Acolyte, I mean, this is your chance. Get people to actually watch the Acolyte and get talking about it. And who knows, maybe they change their mind if they can see that Acolyte keeps picking up viewers. And I really like that Manny Jacinto said that his life goal is to make sure that there will be a season 2 of Acolyte. So, I mean, the actors who were in it and the cast really liked it.
I really enjoyed it. I know there were others didn't enjoy it, but that's fine. That's okay.
It was a grower. It wasn't the kind of series that I like. When it dropped on Wednesday, I didn't go up to watch it before I went to work. I had no problem waiting until I got home, but it has grown on me.
Yeah.
It wasn't the instant fix. It's more interesting. It's something to dwell on.
Yeah, I mean, Andor was the same. It was a very slow start, if you remember. First 3 episodes were a bit, and everybody was going, where the hell is this going? But then it pulled itself out of that and off it went. Things can be successful on a slow grower if you give it a try.
Hi, this is Julie Dolan, the voice of Princess Leia, and you're listening to Fanthatrax. It's your only hope.
I think it's going to be very interesting in Celebration next year to see where Star Wars is going. Yeah. There's no traction at all about nothing I can really see about Celebration at all.
There are some. I mean, the hotels dropped, official hotel drops. They have started giving out, the cosplay guide was posted.
So that's an interesting one. So did you read it?
Yes, I read it. And basically, if you're coming from Western Europe and North America, there is a different culture in Japan when it comes to cosplay. They don't want you to walk in cosplay outside of the convention. Basically, that's frowned upon. That's not something you do. So basically, if you have something that sticks out in any way and looks too much like a costume, you are expected to go and change at the convention, and there will be spaces for changing rooms, but you also have to book those. This is a common thing in Japan. There's nothing strange about it. This is how convention works.
I knew that when I started to look into thinking whether we would go to Celebration or not. What's the talk on the cosplay circuit about?
What I've seen are in some Facebook groups where people are, dare I say, quite American, like I do what I want. But most people seem like, okay, I'm going in a Jedi. Will that be too suspicious? And things like that.
Will it be acceptable?
I would probably go more safe, once again, to be respectful. But it is interesting to see that another thing is that they don't want you to show too much skin. And you're not allowed to wear...
No men dressed up as Princess Leia in a slave Leia outfit then?
And this is an interesting one. You're not allowed to wear costumes that look like underwear.
Definitely no slave Leia then.
But that doesn't look like underwear. I have seen some discussion that when they write it like that, it basically means that if you take something that looks like a bra and panty set from a store, that's not okay. But if it's obviously a costume, it might be okay. And this might be up to interpretation. If any of our listeners are more used to the Japanese cosplay scene, I would love if you could do any comments about this, because I can only read up to what I'm reading about. So
yeah.
I have never been there.
I think it's going to be fascinating to turn up and see what's going to happen in that sense.
And then, of course, they are even more strict about guns. So you're really not allowed to carry anything that might look like gun until on the convention, of course. And then it's the rules that you've had at any celebration the last few years, that you need to have an orange tip on your gun. But it's also specified that you're only allowed to have weapons that are made out of foam or light plastic.
Oh.
Yeah. The Japanese gun laws are very strict, and that, of course, you can't have anything that could be mistaken for a gun. It should be easy to see when you're handling it that it's a toy or a prop. But lightsabers shouldn't be a problem, but you're not supposed to show them until you get into the convention. So if you have your lightsaber with you, keep it in the bag. And
so there'll be no lightsaber meetup then under the Tokyo Tower, is what you're trying to tell me?
Probably no. So it will be a different experience for people coming over from North America and Europe, definitely.
Yeah, we're still not going though. The Henrys are out. I would love to go just for sort of the cultural aspect of it.
They actually dropped the badge art. Darth Vader as a samurai is the main art piece.
Yeah, so check out the badge art for Star Wars Celebration, created by Japanese artist Takumi. The traditional ukiyo style meets a galaxy far, far away for next year's event. Oh, the Ahsoka one looks, look at the Darth Vader one. That is epic.
I would say now, just looking at it now, the badge art is fabulous.
Oh my word, that is beautiful.
I'm assuming that this is part of a full poster that they then have taken details of it and made badges out of. And this is definitely a poster that I would love to see.
I like the Luke Skywalker take on his green lightsaber. That's epic. And he looks almost Vader-esque.
Yes, very Vader-esque. Or as Dark Empire, for any of those oldies who remember that old comic. It's very Dark Empire.
Oh, I quite like the rope around Vader. It looks very samurai, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I'm sure that there will be some beautiful merch that take these Japanese influences and make it into something very special.
Oh, yeah, that is absolutely stunning.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark fanthatracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
And I think that's a pretty good segue into the fact that what we were planning on talking mainly about today. I mean, we all know that the very first Star Wars celebration, which was just Star Wars Celebration to celebrate Star Wars before it was into this institution, and it was all about Denver in 1999. Rain, mud.
Were you at it?
No. I wasn't. My first celebration was Celebration 3. I heard about it for Celebration 2 because I heard so many people going off to this Celebration 2 things, and then I decided that I need to go to the next one. So Brilliant. Celebration 1 was way out. I had and I really didn't have much connection to the Star Wars community. Then I might have registered at the Jedi Council forums in 1998, but I wasn't active there until 1999-2000. What made me really active there was, of course, the fact that you had the Phantom Menace coming out and you had something to talk about.
Yes. Well, this is an interesting one because Star Wars is back in the cinemas in the UK. I don't know whether it is over in Sweden.
No.
They are showing it in Star Wars chronological order. So they started off with the Phantom Menace, and it was great to see it in the big screen again. This is why I like Star Wars. All the other stuff is, periphery, very lucky to have. But this The 6 movies that I've seen so far at the cinema is why I love Star Wars so much. You know my feelings on the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Absolutely not my favourite.
I mean, I had seen the special editions when they were out in 97 and I liked it. I mean, there was a reason why I wanted to register on a Star Wars fan forum in 98. So I liked it a lot, definitely, but it was the hype and the excitement around the Phantom Menace. And for me, very much the connection with other fans that made me into the Star Wars. And it should be said that I didn't spend a lot of time talking about the Phantom Menace once I found these forums where you could talk. I mean, it's so old that you used internet forums, because then, of course, you also had the Basher and Gusher wars, which is basically like today, but it didn't spread as much outside of the big fans. But you had the ones who hated everything about the Phantom Menace, and you had the ones who loved everything about it, and they were called the Bashers and Gushers. And on all the internet forums where I was, you had to have strict rules to maintain some kind of civility, because they were the Basher and Gusher wars, which makes me long for the time for moderated internet forums where not just everyone can scream out into TikTok or YouTube or X or whatever and just scream whatever they want. I ended up finding that there were a lot of other people who liked Star Wars as much as I do. And I mean, I was in the age where I could just get out online. In school, I think we got our first computer with an internet access back then. So it was this discovering all these other people. It was a great thing. And I will always say that I liked Star Wars, but it was the social community around it that made me a fan.
Yeah.
I usually say that the first chance I got to really, no, not the first chance, but when, you know, you go out and I think it was even in my dad's office, I got onto the internet where you could search for things. And my very first search was actually for James Bond, because I loved the James Bond films, and that didn't lead anywhere. And then my second search was for Star Wars. And I found this huge flora and a great internet forum where I could meet friends and talk about and experience what it was like to share a nerdy interest, because I hadn't had that until that time.
Liking Star Wars when I did, I'm a 70s girl, it was an isolated thing, particularly in Ireland. There weren't any conventions. You know, I think the closest thing we ever had was when Stormtroopers, Darth Vader and Boba Fett turned up at the local toy store to promote either The Empire Strikes Back or The Return of the Jedi. But that was nothing compared to what you would get this day. It wasn't that was isolating. I didn't know any other Star Wars fans apart from Andrew. There was me and him, and that was it. I didn't know really anybody else or in secondary school or anything like that, because that community hadn't been built, that internet hadn't been built, that way hadn't been done. So I can see.
And for me, it was really important. In fact, like I said, I logged onto the internet. That was in 98. I wasn't very active, but on this forum, I found a person with a Swedish sounding name. Hey, it sounds like you're from Sweden. Where are you from? And it turns out, yeah, we're from the same part of the town where I live. We'd actually played football together for she is 2 years older than me. So when I went up one age group, she left it. But we had actually been to 2 or 3 football practices together.
Oh, that's such a small world.
Yeah. So it was okay. And that was a really thing. And she had older brothers. So she had grown up with their toys playing Star Wars. And for me, it was wow. Someone else to talk to.
Hello, I'm Ahmed Best, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
When we think about the film now, the highlights for you then, go for it.
The costumes.
Surprise!
Surprise! No, I mean, this is also what turned me into a costumer and cosplayer, all the gorgeous costumes. And then by the time of the Phantom Menace, of course, I couldn't dare dream about making any costumes. I didn't know that you could do that and actually meet people. But you can't say anything but the design of the prequels is so gorgeous. And I totally understand for people who grew up with the originals, it's such a change in design. I totally understand that you don't recognize. If you've seen A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, you don't recognize yourself on Coruscant or on Naboo. It's such a different world. I really love that design. For me, it was simply Star Wars, and it was something new, and it was interesting. I wasn't so impressed by Darth Maul. And when we're talking about marketing, there were 2 fails with the marketing of the Phantom Menace, I would say. The first one was that they revealed the double-bladed lightsaber in the trailer. They should have kept that secret. The second was the fact that they released the soundtrack with the title Qui-Gon's Noble End. And remember also, for all of you listening, this is in a time when the Phantom Menace premiered in the US in May. We got it in August in Sweden.
Yeah, I remember those days. For me, it was the anticipation of a Star Wars film after so many years of not having a Star Wars film. And the fact that George Lucas was behind it. I loved Ewan McGregor.
I think I was more excited about Liam Neeson, actually.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor for me was Train Spotting, Shallow Grave. And I was just thinking, how the hell is he, this Scottish drug-addled person in these films, how on earth is he going to do Alec Guinness and Obi-Wan Kenobi any justice whatsoever?
And I was a bit too young for that, I would say. I mean, I was 17, so really, Train Spotting, I didn't see it until, this friend I was talking about earlier when she showed it to me. So I hadn't seen those parts of him. For me, he was basically totally new.
He was definitely an actor of my generation. You know, it was the whole Pulp Fiction, Oasis Blur, that sort of thing. And how on earth was he going to be this clean-cut Jedi Knight? And he did it so well for me. I thought he was brilliant at it. I tell you, the thing that I absolutely loved in the lead up to the Phantom Menace was the poster of Anakin and his shadow.
And the shadow. I mean, even if I'm talking about the two failures of the marketing, they had so many brilliant things. It was so much that it was beautifully done. And as a woman, this was the first Star Wars film that really catered to me as well. I mean, you and I, we have been to a few panels at Celebration talking about female collecting.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was for the Phantom Menace that they started to realize that there are female collectors out there.
Yeah.
You could start finding makeup, things that were really geared towards us.
Because again, in the 70s, 80s, that just didn't exist. The Princess Leia doll was not a Barbie or a Cindy doll. I had to wait until my 46th birthday before I got a Barbie doll, which looked like Carrie Fisher. To be fair, though, the doll, that I rescued, Mark and Paul from Phantom Tracks will laugh at this one. The naked Leia that I rescued this Leia doll, which was basically had her boots on and nothing else, and her hair was perfect. And I had this doll already with a dress and everything, but I'd wrecked her hair. So I literally transferred all the stuff from that doll into this one. She was clunky. She wasn't feminine as such. It was an interesting one.
And of course, I mean, it took me a while, but I'm not a huge collector. But what I still have is, of course, my collection of Padme Amidala 12-inch dolls, which were made in several. You had the cheaper ones, you had the collector's editions, and I have them. What I don't have is the super collector's edition of the parade gown, because I think that was something like $1,000. And they are really hard to get. But I do have the rest one, including the Japanese one. But that one has, the hair isn't so good. But I got the Japanese, which is the Tatooine peasant disguise, because that one wasn't sold outside of Japan. Once again, internet came out. You could find it on eBay.
Thank you very much, Johanna, for a great show and just a great old natter about Star Wars. And I hope that everybody who listens has enjoyed listening to us blathering on tonight about it. So, if you want to be part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit panthertracks.com and be sure to comment, like, share on any of our social media feeds at Panthertracks. You can reach out to us and send in your questions or comments by emailing radio@panthertracks.com. You can subscribe and leave a review, preferably, of course, the 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcatcher of your choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Panther Tracks intro and our Princess Leia opening music, and for Mark Daniels and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember to keep tuning in to anything that's going on Panther Tracks, including Good Morning Tatooine, our Panther Tracks Radio Friday night rotation for new episodes of The Panther Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collect Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks. Always try to listen if you can, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks. From myself and Johanna, we love you.
You know.
Coming up next on Phantom Tracks Radio, it's Making tracks.